Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to Health Oddity podcast. I'm here today with some very special guests. Actually, it's just the usual crew. There's myself, Paul Bassett. We also have Peter Lant. Say hey, Peter.
Hello. And that's probably all I'm going to say in this one.
And we've also got James. How you doing, James?
I'm very good, thank you. Hopefully that sounds brilliant.
Right, so James has just invested.
James, you sound like you're in a recording studio, mate.
He's invested in a pretty swanky setup. We all got microphones, but he's just gone one better, and it's become an arms race.
If you look at it, basically, Paul's the understated one because he's got a little fluffy hamster on his chest, and I don't mean his chest hair. I don't know. I've got this thing, which is just like is
it's like something from Star Wars, like a miniature Death Star.
Yeah, it's a miniature Death Star, but it's it's like a budget one, but it works really well for my needs. And then James has gone full British Broadcasting Corporation.
It's got a crane.
It has 5 points of articulation. I'll have you know.
5? Did you have to close the road to get that in?
It's top of the poppermost.
Hey.
Anyway, as you can see, that we don't actually have any official guests. We've got an emergency guest, which is usually one of us. So, sorry, I just see the offence I've just caused. No. So basically, we've already had a interview with myself, interview with Peter, and it's about time we pulled James into the hot seat to ask him all the burning questions that I know not only I have and Peter has, but maybe some of you guys listening have also got. Who the hell are we? Why are we doing this? Well, you know why I'm doing it, because go back and listen to my episode. It's not a request, but you can.
It's not a request, it's an order.
Yeah. It's an order, yeah, that's an order. Peter's already done one as well, which is fascinating insight into why he got into the fitness industry, but also James as well. And it's about time we find out what drives you, why you're here, what led you to this moment in time, this crucial crossroads that you're now at, which is working with us on this podcast. So anyway, nice to have you, James.
Well, thank you for that superb introduction, and that I am I'd like to think I'm a bonus guest, but I'm a filler. What you're basically saying is I'm a filler between proper guests.
Well, like Richard Herring on his comedy Leicester Square Theatre thing has emergency questions. Like, would you rather have a hand made of ham or an armpit that dispenses sun cream? So he's got emergency questions just in case there's a lull.
Okay.
I know that Peter's thinking about this.
Yeah, that's one of those interesting questions, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a bit like the Mighty Boosh as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff.
I don't think we're going to go quite that deep today.
I'd probably go for the ham thing because, well, then I'd end up eating my own hand because I don't like sun cream. I'm not that big on it because I basically, if it gets over 14 degrees, I'm too hot and I start whinging, which is going to be soon. Maybe like next week or the week after.
I think we might need to move on to questions for James.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, so James, look, I mean, both me and Peter have known you for a while, but and we've trained with you in person. That's how I met you, certainly. And you've got a really we've got a really great business. For me, it's a great model that I've kind of been observing when I set up, and so I've always had my eye on what you're doing. You've always been really proactive in the health and fitness scene, making great connections with loads of other professionals, but also you build a business that really seems to take care of its clients. And I think it's going to be a fascinating chat to kind of find out what makes you tick, where you came from. I know that Peter's done an interview with you in the past, and found out some more kind of deeper questions of what makes you tick. But today, I think we wanted to put you on a hot seat and kind of get your opinions on a few things and what kind of drives you to keep training your clients, because you've been doing this for 20 years.
Yeah.
What keeps you engaged and I think curious, because that's what I definitely would categorize you as someone who's just curious about loads of different things, and that drives you to delve a little bit deeper. And from my point of view, it's always interesting to see what you're posting on Facebook, or what you bring up in these conversations, because I go away and have a think about those things and check out those people as well. So I'm always interested in what you're doing to evaluate the kind of information out there. So anyway, maybe it's worth you just kind of giving everyone a little bit of an update of how you got here and what kind of business you run and what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, thanks, Paul. So I've been in the fitness industry for about 22-ish years now. I'm 43 this year, and sort of came in at around the 20 years of age. And some people either tend to get into the industry for a few reasons. One, they tend to either be very, very sporty themselves and from a sporty background, competitive background, and they just kind of fall into coaching and fitness and that sort of thing because it's something that they're passionate about. Others probably like the two of you guys sort of came to the industry kind of later on as a second career or a third career in some instances with people where they've been personally inspired and sort of touched by fitness and health, and then they've decided that that's the kind of path they want to take, almost like a change in gear. And for me, I was never particularly good I did participate in sports and things as a kid. I played football, I played cricket, not to any high level, just kind of club sort of level, and just enjoyed it, but wasn't really sort of a standout in any of the teams, And then at university, I went to uni to study graphics and design, and was there for 3 years and got quite into rugby, and I was at university in Northampton for 3 years, played rugby for 3 years there, and got quite into my gym training and that sort of thing. And by the time I got to the end of my degree, I kind of knew that sitting in an office behind a Mac, or whatever, in a design studio, 40 hours a week wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I knew that I wanted to be more involved with helping people, and more of an active kind of job. And what I was really drawn to was actually helping people. My mum was a nurse for my whole life while I was growing up. Very, very sort of caring person, caring profession. And I always had quite a good empathy with people. And that kind of is what took me into, working in a gym to begin with, I think, and also, I enjoyed training. Yeah. I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't like, wow, I'm a fantastic, I'm an elite athlete, I'm now going to go into this. It was more the helping people that kind of drew me in,
So what is what would you say your business is now? Yes, you've got a gym and you do personal training, but what kind of business would you say you have?
What I have now, I'd say probably like I know the two of you guys as well. I'd say I probably run more of a sort of a phrase coined, I don't know if it's coined by Dan John, but he used it a lot, like an intentional community, So I think I've got an intentional community of people, largely over 50 years old, based in Chelmsford in Essex. We've got a training studio where we do one-to-one training, we do small group training, and we do kind of, I wouldn't say large group training, but probably sort of mid-level, where the biggest our classes get to is around sort of 12, 10 to 12 people. And that's what I started that business, Unique Results, back in 2007. Yeah, started there. So it's been sort of 14 years this year that we've been running, around 130 members, something like that. And just we really just focus on community and interaction and creating friendships and creating positive habits and going on walking weekends together and skiing holidays together and outdoor activities and it's just helping people live an active life outside and making friends and making it fun. That's kind of what we do for people over 50.
Because that's kind of a radical.
That's what I love about it when I see your stuff is like, okay, there's the training and the fact that you know, people are doing like with the classes and stuff like that. What I really like there is like you call them. I never like calling them classes because it makes it sound like a, you know, like a generic fitness space sort of thing. But obviously, like when you say big classes, doesn't mean like get as many people in as possible, bang the music out, and just tell everyone to do as many exercises in 45 seconds as they can, and all of that. It looks similar to what I do. Is kind of like, right, you've got a group of people, and then you say, right, okay, you're not quite up to speed yet. You're not quite like, why don't you come out and we'll take you to the side and we'll get you up to speed over the next couple of weeks with, and we'll work with you in person, and then get everyone else like doing their thing, and then you can then slot in there quite easily. But what I do love is when I see your stuff is the skiing holidays and the fact that everyone's got an identity. Like, who is it? Grumpy? Is it Grumpy Dave or something?
Oh, Grumpy Dave, yeah.
Grumpy Dave, all of that, and they've all got their identity. And there's the guy who's in his 70s who swings maces and
That's
clubs.
another Dave, yeah. That's Dave Roscoe, yeah.
Local Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all quite, it's very easy to remember. They're all
if your name's not Dave, you're not coming in, yeah?
Well, that's what I love. Everybody's got an identity within the group as well, so everyone knows who each other is. It's brilliant. So how did you? Because like we can talk about where you came from, which is fantastic, but like, you know, what's kind of your vision for to take that forwards? Because you've built this thing. So how do you keep it going? How do you keep people engaged? How do you keep people wanting to come back?
I mean, I think what you guys probably find as well, and what a lot of, if other trainers are listening who've been doing this for a while, will recognize, is that you sort of start the ball rolling, or I start the ball rolling with unique results, and it kind of starts to develop a life of its own after a number of years. And certainly what we find now is that you've got, and I say groups within groups, but sometimes that sounds a bit cliquey, and I know that, you know, in big sort of big box gyms and big health clubs and things, you've maybe got cliques of different people, but who maybe exclude others. But what we've kind of got now is people have really made sort of firm friendships within the group, and they maybe go on holiday together and go away and do things just from meeting at Unique Results. And then you've got groups who, so like you say, if you've got someone new who's not quite up to speed, now it's getting to the stage where the more experienced members of the gym or the studio will actually spend some time with them, you know, unprompted. It's not like I've had to ask them to, but someone new will come in to do some mace stuff or something and be having a little bit of difficulty, and we'll be having a break. And then I'll see one of the kind of more experienced members taking them to one side and explaining some stuff and doing some things with them. We've got three ladies who train with us, Alex, Emma and Lauren, who are doing the Strong First SFG1 this October. And they went from, you know, not ever using a kettlebell before to, you know, to training. And now all three of them have signed up for the Strong First cert in October, which is great. So they're kind of training together. And I think certainly over the last year, since lockdown, we've had a lot of that where I'm not really even involved in some stuff that goes on, but I'll just see posts on Facebook where, you know, a few members have got together and gone out for a walk, or they're meeting online and setting up their own stuff on Zoom to do some training and that sort of thing. So it's fantastic, you know, and I think that comes from having a clear sort of vision of the kind of people you want to work with, and also really trying to, when you get recommendations from those people and referrals, they tend to be people of a similar ilk and people with similar values and similar senses of humor and similar life experiences. So it's very easy for people to get on, you know, which is great, you know. And like I say, the vast majority of the members are over 50, a small majority are female. So you've probably got 60, 40, you know, female to male split. And now we're getting more people because we've got lots of members who've been with us for, you know, for 10 years plus. We've got lots of members now in their 60s and more moving into their 70s. So, yeah, it's great. You know, everyone's growing and developing together. And it's something that I'm very proud of and just privileged and honored to be a part of and to get to spend my life doing now.
When you work with someone for so long, which you've had a privilege to do, and what are you noticing? I mean, what do you notice between someone who's been with you? Because you're going to get people fresh off the street who've maybe never trained or trained with other people. And then you've had clients who've been with you they've seen your evolution and they've evolved themselves. Where are they now when they've been training with you 10 years?
Well, there's one lady who I think she'll probably listen to this. She listens to most weeks, called Edith, who's trained with me for over 10 years. It's probably
Oh, Edith.
Hello, Edith. Yeah, yeah.
This is like Saturday morning TV now, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, probably
Shout
like
hello back.
11, 12 years now, and she's in her early 60s. I think when she first started, she would join with me. She was 50. And now, I mean, she does the tactical strength challenges. She's done those for the last 3 years, and just 2 weeks ago, she got a PB double overhand deadlift with 90 kilos.
I saw that.
And she's, and so people can continue to improve and to evolve and to get better as they get older. Without a doubt, it's the old use it or lose it kind of principle. There's no, and we spoke to Brad again the other week, Brad Kearns. We spoke to Dan John last week. Brad's 56, I think Dan's 63 now. They're both still competing at a high level of what they do, and you can continue to improve as you get older. Like you said, Dave Roscoe as well, in his 70s now, getting stronger, getting better, still setting himself goals.
But you were a young guy when you started. I mean, I'm not saying you're an old guy now, but you were 30 odd, 31, 32, and you're suddenly working with a population who's maybe 20, 30 years older than you. So how did you...
Why people... I was going to ask that question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what actually happened was, I think when I started Unique Results, I was maybe 28, 29. But when the very first place I worked, which was called Blackwater Leisure Centre, it's in Malden in Essex, which is a small little kind of market town, I suppose you call it. And I worked in a small leisure centre there, and it's quite a more sort of older population there, really, I suppose. And it was a tiny little gym, and all we had at the time, there was 3 or 4 treadmills, there was a couple of rowers, a couple of bikes, and about 8 fixed resistance machines, like a chest press, a lat pull down, and a shoulder press, a bicep curl, that sort of thing. And I started there for my first I think I worked there for maybe my first 18 months in the industry, just as a gym instructor, just in there doing inductions, walking around, talking to people, giving people help and helping if they asked. And most of the or a lot of the members there that I saw were older. So I was in my very early 20s then. I may have been 21. And from that really early stage, I knew I realized very quickly that the people that you actually that I at the time had the most impact on their lives and actually had the most ability to help and to improve the quality of their lives was the people who were middle-aged and up, so I was sort of 21. So it's people certainly in their 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. And that gave me a bigger sense of fulfillment and satisfaction than training people in their 20s that, wanted to look good on the beach in Ibiza in the summer, So I think I made that connection quite early on. And then that kind of stuck with me as I went through. I don't think I really knew. When I first started Unique Results, it wasn't like, right, I specifically want to work with people, who are like maybe in their 50s and above. But the way I am, I just kind of attracted more of those people and probably turned off or rejected the kind of the younger, more sort of superficial ones, which is not a problem with that, because everyone goes through different stages in their lives. But I found that I got the most fulfillment with working with older people. And then I went into to managing a big leisure centre in the fitness sort of provision of a big leisure centre in Chelmsford. And we had prior to that, I worked in Harlow for a few years. Then I went to Chelmsford. And we had a really big GP referral program, and we did GP referrals for people with medical conditions and injuries and things like that for adults, and then GP referrals for children. And I used to do hydrotherapy with people who'd, recovering from strokes or hip replacements, knee replacements, that sort of thing. So I was really exposed to a lot more kind of older people, and we did disability training, and we had lots of disabled people come in. So I just found all of that much more interesting, you know, having to think on your feet and having to adapt, rather than your kind of typical sort of bro sort of split of bodybuilding and that sort of thing. Working with these people that were older, it really kind of ignited a bit of passion in me and made me very fulfilled.
Well, that's one of the things, isn't it? Because there's many different ways to train people. And when you're younger, you know, like we spoke about this when we had that chat when I was doing that previous podcast. And it was like, you know, we're speaking about bodybuilding grannies. Because not saying that everyone you train are granddads and grannies, you know what I mean? But the older population, but when you're in your 20s or even early 30s, that's kind of like what you know, isn't it? You're like, oh, you do these splits and you train arms this day and legs that day. But it's not about that. Like you say, people don't want to be on the beach looking like with a six pack and that. They just want to, you know, train for health, basically. I think that's what people get to. So for our listeners, right? I mean, like, who are probably in that sort of situation, that stage in life of like, right, how do I train for health? How do I train for longevity? You know, it's how, like, what would you say about how to find a community like yours? And I'm not saying don't go and join a big, you know, Globo gym and all that, because you can still get, you know, you can get decent training in there and all of that. However, if you join a community of people with the same values, who all want like similar things, but can still go about it in very different ways, how do you go about, you know, how do you go about looking at that? How do you go about finding that, do you think?
Well, what I'll do, first of all, just to touch on a point that you said, which was the different ways of training. And this is just for anyone who's been around, you know, the fitness industry for, you know, the last sort of two or three decades, or people who've maybe trained in gyms over the years. When I first trained, and we had this conversation previously a long time ago, but when I first qualified as a gym instructor, back in sort of, you know, around sort of 2000, I suppose it would be, everything was based upon bodybuilding type training or body or muscle groups. So you're always, and I don't know, I haven't done this kind of course for so long, but they may still do it for the standard sort of level 3s and things like that. But it was almost like you looked at the body and you looked at all of the muscle groups in the body, and you thought, well, okay, over the course of a workout or two workouts, you've got to work all of those muscle groups. So it was kind of like, okay, well, you've done a bicep exercise, you've got to do a tricep exercise, or you've worked your quads, you've now got to work your hamstrings, or you've worked your chest, you've done a press, you've now got to work your back and do a row. And it was very much like you were breaking the body down. And it's one of Dan John's phrases, isn't it? The body is one piece, you know. So it was all based upon exercises and working the body in as many different ways as you could, but making sure you hit all those individual muscles. And then I suppose if I look at my kind of career, I've probably gone through 2 or 3 stages, but around a decade ago, I kind of got more into looking at training movements rather than training muscles. So, and then that's where, you know, you look at things like a push, a pull, a hinge, a squat, a carry, and you're not really thinking about, well, what exact muscles am I using? You're thinking about, I'm doing this pattern of movement and working this movement. So that's the first thing. There was a massive change for me, probably 10 or 12 years ago.
What stimulated that change? What was it that flipped?
I think it's education and meeting people, and like you say, being always inquisitive and curious. And I wasn't really. There was obviously, again, this is probably 15 years ago now, there was a kind of when the first time sort of functional training became a buzzword in the industry, you know, and then that kind of was probably around 15 years ago. But I think it's around the time that I kind of came into contact with people like Dan John, like Mike Boyle as well, like Perry Nicholson, and people who were very much talking a different language, you know, and they were simplifying things rather than making it more complicated. And they were like looking at movements rather than muscles. And as well, I mean, I saw Paul Chek back in, God, I must have seen Paul Chek 18 years ago, something like that at an event, and saw him do a couple of seminar kind of workshop things. So yeah, so it's through education, I think. And then it just made more sense as well, especially with the people that I was dealing with, and it simplified everything. And it was just much more benefit to the kind of people that I was training. So that's sort of, first of all, just to go back to that multiple ways of training. I think you probably, and we spoke last week, I think, where we said, oh, everyone's moved away from doing the kind of the splits and that sort of thing. But I think that's also just because of the world that we're in now and the people that we mix with. It seems that kind of doing conventional strength training or bodybuilding training, which is nothing wrong with if that's what you want to do, but that is still very much a big part of the industry. But it's just the people that we're kind of involved with don't do that so much. But going back to the question you asked, which was about finding a community.
Oh, well, it was now.
Yeah, I forgot it was. I think there's going to be people in every town doing stuff like I'm doing, or you guys are doing. You know, we've got networks ourselves of lots of people all over the country and all over the world who are doing similar stuff to what we're doing. So I think the thing is just for people to start. First thing is ask if you've got any friends or anyone who's doing this sort of thing, taking part as a participant. Ask them, get some recommendations from friends, and then it's just looking at not just automatically just going down. I mean, going down to your local big leisure centre or the local big Virgin Active or David Lloyd's or whatever it is, because those places do serve a purpose, like you said. And I think they're very, very good at helping keep fit people fit. If you know what you're doing and you're into sport and you're into fitness, go into a big place where you're effectively just paying to use their equipment, but you're self-motivated, you know what you're doing. Those places are great. If you're someone who is in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, you're not sure about what you need to do, you've maybe got a few health concerns, you're probably better off trying to find something a little bit more specialist and a little bit more boutique, if you like, or something where there's fewer people there and where you can get better attention. And you probably will, pay a little bit more for that service, but it's going to be far better to pay a bit more for a service that you really get good value out of and that it really helps improve your quality of life, rather than pay, your 15, your 20, your 30 pounds a month just to go somewhere where you're one of 4,000 people who remember, and, you go in and no one ever talks to you. And that's just my view. If you want more specialist help, you need to go to a smaller, more specialist place.
It's funny because what you just said there is it's reminding me of a conversation I've had today, actually. But you can go to a place where you don't speak to anybody, you just turn up and do your thing, right? So I've got a few questions for you out of this. But what I find and what you might find is, one question is, what do people actually come to you for? And that's what they want. That's what they say they want, which doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to get. But that's what they say they want and they think they want, and they've possibly been told they want. So we're coming from what you said about Dan John and Perry Nicholson and all those types of guys who simplify things. So I think what's happened is you look at this is the whole point in this podcast, isn't it? Busting jargon and all that. So you said they were talking a different language, and the language they're talking is the language of everyone else who doesn't know anything about fitness in the fitness industry. You can be in the fitness industry and listen to all this thing about mitochondria and God knows what, and it's like, what the hell are they talking about? Or you can just say, right, here's some movements that we're going to do, and this will help with gardening, walking, cycling, this, that. I was swinging a pickaxe around in the garden, digging up the lawn. And I've been swinging maces around. Exactly the same, right? Obviously, that's not why the mace is there. It's there for fighting and stuff like that. But, it helps with a pickaxe as well. And this comes out of...
You live.
Yeah. This comes out of conversations that you have with people. Like you say, if you go to a bigger gym, you might not talk to anybody. But the conversations that your clients have with each other and with you over a time, so over the period of 6 months, they might have come to you for one thing, but they end up realizing that they need something else. After having a conversation with you, who knows exactly how to get the thing that they want, but you've got to get them to want that thing as well, right? Which is another thing that comes from a post I saw Gemma Wesson put up about being an influencer that you commented on. And she was like, I'm not an influencer. It's like, you are You're just not doing it for fame and money. You're doing it to help people get what they want without realizing it. So this is the question out of that is, well, no, because it's all about making things easier for people and
Yeah,
give,
no, yeah.
like I say, you kind of you might pay a little bit extra for that, but then at least you get you know you're getting taken in the right direction. So what do people actually what do you think people come to you for in their 50s? What do they say they want? Because this is so again for the listeners who are listening who don't know what they want, or they think they want something but they're not sure and they might need something else. What do people generally come to you for, and then what do they end up getting? And is it the same thing or is it different in like, you know, in general?
I think now, because we're kind of again, we're not massively well known still in the area that we're based in Chelmsford, but people who come to us are generally either referred or have been watching us for a while, and they know what it's similar to what Phil McDougall said when we have Phil McDougall on. You know, people come to him, they know what they're coming for when they go to him, as opposed to going to someone else. So we will get emails from people, and I've had a few in the last couple of weeks, you know, who want to get started when we reopen. And they'll say things like, well, one of them, for example, a lady last week messaged, and she's got a respiratory condition where she goes to Papworth Hospital and things like this, and she has some medical concerns, and she wants to come and build up her health and fitness for medical reasons, and for ultimately so she can lead a better life, you know, and have more energy and be more active with her life. And she was referred by another member who has a similar kind of condition. So she comes and she says, "This is what I want to do." Other people come in and they just, it's like Dan said last week or in the previous episode, you know, they just know that what they are at the moment, or how they're showing up every day, is not how they feel. They want to feel better. So we did a big question with a load of our members a few years ago to actually find out this. You know, we sat down with a group of members one at a time and had a coffee with them and went through loads of questions, digging into, you know, what they want. And we came up with like a three kind of stage slogan, if you like, which is feel healthy, look healthy, and be healthy. And for our members, that's what we boiled it down to, because most of them want to feel better. So that's the main thing. They want to feel better. They want to feel like they have more energy. They want to feel that they're not saying no to things because of their health or their physical abilities. And I've had that from members before who say, oh, whenever I've been on holiday before, if there's been an excursion or something, and you know you're going to go walking over, I don't know, to a volcano or something, they'd always say no, because they would be scared of holding the rest of the group up, or looking stupid, or letting people down, or just not being able to do it, you know. And then they go on these holidays and I don't have to say no to it anymore. Anything that I want to do, I can do. So for our members, and that's why I put it in the order of feel, look, and be, because for our members, the feeling more healthy and feeling better is the main driver. It's not looking, not saying that they won't look better as they get into the training, but that's a byproduct rather than a main driver, you know. So to feel healthy, to look healthy, and then to be healthy, you know, they're the main things that people come to us for. And also to do it in a community of like-minded, friendly people that's fun, that they're not going to feel out of place, that they're not going to feel, you know, not going to be laughed at, they're not going to be looked down on, they're not going to be, you know, treated in a condescending sort of patronizing way. I mean, the people that we have train hard. They you know, like I said, with Edith, she's doing like deadlifts, you know, serious deadlifts. And it was only after she'd done this 90 kilos, the next week I saw her and said, you do realize you did that double overhand as well. And if people don't deadlift, they won't understand really what we're talking about. But the way she gripped the bar to double overhand 90 kilos in her 60s is, you know, and not mixed grip was, and she just did it, you know.
It's just harder, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, basically it's much harder on your grip, and she did it as an afterthought. So people train seriously, they train hard, but we're not there just sort of thrashing people. It's they're training in a sensible, sustainable, consistent, progressive manner, which is trying to make them more healthy first of all, and move better, and all the rest of it.
I think you've hit
Well,
two.
I suppose the second bit of that question is, sorry, Paul, just about Edith, because Edith's great, by the way. I saw it, and what I love about it and about your place and stuff like that is you see it looks like just random people wander up to a bar and just go, I'm just going to pick that up and pick it up. And you're like, no, you can't do that. But did she come to you 10 years ago or whenever it was saying, I want to be able to do a 90-kilo deadlift when I'm 60?
No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a byproduct, isn't it? It's one of those things that just happens by showing up all the time and commitment and enjoying what you're doing and all of that.
And I think it's one of the things Josh talked about on his podcast a couple of weeks back, was trying to take the emphasis and Maggie as well, obviously, when we spoke to Maggie, trying to take the emphasis and the main kind of focus on things away from this kind of standing on scales and seeing how much you weigh each week, and actually, and I read there was something great. I actually shared it in my Facebook group yesterday. I'll just quickly find it because it should be at the top. It should be easy to find. But I think both of you know Peter Lakatos, do you, from Hungary?
Oh,
Yeah. And he posted something the other day, which was fantastic. And obviously English isn't his first language, so he wrote it, and it's even better because it kind of sounds a bit funny the way he wrote it. But it's perfect. He said,
Are you allowed to say that? I don't know.
well, no, what I mean is the way it's written is really humorous, but I don't know if it's intentional, but it's genius anyway. He said, the irony is neither nutrition nor training should target weight loss. Both should target health, and health will indicate weight optimization. If weight loss would be the only one goal, amputation would be the solution.
Yeah, and Dan John said that a while ago. If you want to lose weight, I'll chop your leg off, and if we're not quite there, I'll chop half your other leg off.
Well, isn't it like Dave Whitley said, if you exercise, you just want to feel sore, I can hit you with a stick.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, I had a client, I didn't find out until a bit later when I took her on. She was quite overweight, wasn't really happy where she was. She lost close to 30 kilos, became an incredibly strong individual, pressing 20 kilos with each arm. And there's a woman, that's pretty hard to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not to say it's hard, but I mean, it's not common.
It's not common.
But actually, when I spoke to them, one of the things that drove her to make this change was she couldn't fit into a seat on a fairground ride, and got incredibly embarrassed. But then 6 months later, was doing the Inca Trail. The Inca Trail, and she did it without any problems, feeling great, kept up, and then just like her inner potential just suddenly was released. And really, that kind of, the people come in with a particular outcome, but really what they want is a change in their kind of potential, so that they're becoming more themselves, because it's locked up. I think Paul McElroy was talking about this. It's like, we're not changing you into someone different. We're releasing something within you to optimize it.
There's a thing I've wrote down here again. Coming back to values, which we've been talking about a lot. Obviously, well, I've been talking about a lot anyway, because it's you. No, but I was talking about this the other day as well, and it's like, what James just said there, and what you've just said there, actually. By the way, it wasn't like the teacups, was it? She wasn't like, I can't fit into this seat, I need to lose weight. It's like, no, that's a kid's right. That's like when you go to you're sitting in the chairs of your old primary school, and you're like, how does this happen? Your knees are up here.
As I sit on a bus, I don't like that. My knees are up.
Well, I don't know. I haven't had a bus for years, mate. Not because I'm posh, just because everywhere in Bath's really close. But anyway, it's that thing about people want to be able to do stuff. So like the skiing trips you do and everything, I love that sort of stuff, James. But like there must be people who be like, well, I can't come on that. But then after a while they can, like you said, go and hiking up a mountain or something like that. And they're like, I don't go on holidays that do that because I can't. And like in what Paul said, you've got to unlock that potential within you because it is there. And this is where it comes to values. It's like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be the person? Do you want to be that person who says, I can't do it? Or do you want to be the person who says, yeah, no problem. If I can't do it, it doesn't matter, because that means it's really hard because I can do anything. And then what that comes back to is do your actions now lead you to being that person you want to be? If no, that what do you need to change? And you don't need to go running more or do this more, do that. You just need to change your actions. You need to do something that brings you towards that being that person, isn't it? And like you said, that's the thing. What do you want to what was it you said? You want to feel like, so the feeling will get you towards the health and the be healthy and being that person.
So a couple of things that you just said there. So one, I've had a number of times in the last sort of 13 or so years where people, because where I used to work, say in more of a gym, which was a council run gym, which again, they do great things, but it's just a different kind of place and a different kind of service. When I started actually talking to people and sitting down and talking quite in depth about, their goals and their values and what it is they want to achieve, I heard a number of times people saying, one that's come up quite a few times is the aeroplane needing to ask for the seatbelt extender, to get into an aeroplane seat. So that's something that we've had a number of members who've come to us with. And that's not obviously the first thing they say when they walk through the door. They don't say, this is why I'm coming. But when you actually start having deep conversations with them, it's the kind of the stigma or the embarrassment or just the way that they feel when on a plane, you have to sit down and you have to put your hand up and, say, oh, can I have this because I need it? So that's something that people have had a number of times. And on the skiing thing, there was one lady who joined us called Sian, and she hadn't been skiing for, I think it was quite a long time. It was at least 15 years. And when she joined, one of the things she wanted to do was to get back to going skiing again. And then, so it was fantastic. I think it was the last time we went. So it actually feels like a long time. It was actually February last year, 2020, because we went away just before kind of the whole kind of COVID thing kicked off. She came on the ski trip with her husband and had an amazing time. And she had lost a load of weight and got stronger and got more mobile, and she was brilliant skiing again. So that was great for her to do that, which was really good. And that's the other thing that I like about what we do is when we do these walking weekends and ski trips and things, members they can bring their husbands or their wives or their partners along. And then they become, so we've got a guy called Kelvin, who's not a member of the gym, but he's the husband of a member, and he classes himself as a social member. So he comes out to the Christmas do's and the summer socials and the walking weekends, and he's great fun. And
there's another term for that. That's hanger on.
You've got to charge him, James. You need to be more cutthroat.
What happens now? Everyone's got their identity, so you can be a Kelvin, the hanger on. That's what he can become known as. His point here.
He's a social member. But again, it's great because people, I love it. It's just that kind of thing, that community where their partners come along and get involved, even if they're not a member of the gym. It's great. That's just.
I think we have a lot of guests. There's loads of really interesting people in the fitness industry, and I suppose part of this podcast is to siphon through the best voices out there. But when I hear you talk, I don't really hear you talk about yourself. When you're talking and articulating about your philosophy, you do it in terms of other people and achievements. So, I mean, what do you see your place? Because a lot of people come in with the I, I did this. This is my perspective. This is how I do things. But really what you all seem to be doing is saying, this is what this person achieved. Look how they ran with this. Look how they did this. They took themselves from here to there. Why is that, do you think, you speak in those terms?
I don't know. I think it's not. First of all, it's not about me. Do you know what I mean? It's not. And I think that's something that the whole kind of social media, Instagram kind of world can it works for people. Some people. You mentioned the influencer post that Gemma Weston, I think, put on the other day. For some people, that's their business. The business is selling themselves and how great they are, and then kind of attaching a product or a service or, a supplement to how great they are and saying, if you want to be as great as me, buy this thing and you can get there, and then they get a kickback off of that. For me, I really see myself more as the facilitator of the process, or the facilitator of the community, you know. And it's not about me. It's not about what I can do or what I can't do. It's about, and that's why I say, that's why actually I love it when things start to happen without me, and I see people have really taken full kind of ownership and autonomy, and they're you know, I train some people, they go, oh, I've met up with you know, Alex will say, oh, I met up with Emma last night and we did some kettlebell snatching. And I said, oh, really? Yeah. We just had a 15-minute Zoom together and we went through, you know, and we're doing some snatching. Or, you know, I'll see a picture pop up of two members who've met up and just gone for a nice long walk together. And that kind of is the best thing, because with the best will in the world, one person can't control everything and can't do everything. So you need, I mean, I have got a team behind me as well. I've got, you know, Nikki, Mark, I've got Russ, I've got Steph, who are all working with me as well, and making it all work. But that's the biggest thing. It's not about me. It's not about what I can do. It's about what I can help other people do. And that's just been my philosophy the whole way through. Really. That's why it's not, you know, James St. Pierre Fitness. You know what I mean? It's different. You know, it's
there would be nothing wrong with that, by the way.
No, there's not anything wrong with that. But that was I from the start. And some people, you know, and you've got Mark Fisher Fitness, and you've got Peter Lant training philosophy, and you've got, you know, it's just I had a separation at the start. Do you know what I mean? Before I even started, that I was kind of creating something separate to me. And that's, you know, and I love the fact that we're doing Health Oddity podcast now, and it's not James St. Pierre podcast or Paul Bassett podcast or Peter Lamp podcast. It
might be with that new microphone. It's a hostile takeover.
We don't know until this episode goes out whether anyone's heard us or not, or it's just all you. You like drowning us out.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like I say, there's nothing wrong with anything. Anything anyone wants to do, they do. You know, like I say, there's nothing wrong with your cheap budget sort of gyms, because if people know what, I mean, you go and train, Pete, don't you? And do your kind of, well, when you can, you know, and do your deadlifts and your overhead presses and your squats in a kind of gym that you just go and pay to use.
Yeah, gym that's been there for you. It's 23 quid a month.
Yeah.
I don't need a trainer in there or anything, because I've got the program. So I just go in and do the thing.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. If you know what you're doing and you pay your money and you go in there and you crack on, brilliant, you know. Yeah, but the people that I work with don't know what they're doing, and that wouldn't work for them. But I appreciate and know that, you know, lots of people do know what they're doing, and that's fine. But possibly the people that were listening to this and that we're talking to probably don't know. You know, a lot of them don't know what they're doing.
Well, the thing with that is there's nothing wrong with that, what you've just said. However, all three of us have got coaches coaching us. We know what we're doing, but we've still got coaches coaching us in what to do. Because you know what you're doing up until a certain point. But then at that point, it's like there's going to be someone with more experience who knows how to progress that, or move that in a different direction to get this thing that I want over here, or whatever. And you know,
what do they say? If you represent yourself in court, you've got an idiot for a lawyer.
Yeah. I mean, entirely correct. You know, we've all got coaches that we work with. You know, I work with coaches on a number of things. You know, I have a, you know, physical sort of training, you know, marketing, kind of life stuff. You know, I've got my accountant is great. He's someone I can phone and talk to about financial stuff. You know, you have to have experts that you surround yourself in every area that you can go to when you have questions. Because if you try and do it all yourself, you're gonna fall flat on your face, aren't you? So that's true. I mean, but what I mean is, if some people are content and happy, you know, going along and doing their own thing, whether that's successful, whether that's the most effective way of doing things is up for question. But if they're happy, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, you know. Yeah,
I was going to say that's another thing as well, because we, you know, I've seen stuff on like social media and that when we post like, oh, we've got Dan John on the podcast, we've got Phil McDougall on the podcast, we've got this, and people are like, how the hell do you get them to come on your podcast? Like, because we've invested in them in the past, and they've invested back in us with their time and their expertise and all that. So it's a two-way street, and this is what's really good about it. You invest your time into somebody, and they'll give back if that's the way they are, they'll just give back and give back and give back. And it's you know, if you can create a community of that, like you said, people bringing it all the way back to people in your gym who started out not knowing what they're doing, and then they're coaching people 10 years later.
So what do you, James? I mean, one of the things it's quite easy to be seen as a trainer, particularly in the discipline that we work within, we're seen as fairly like we've got it all set, we've all got it all done. You know, we don't struggle with these things. We don't struggle with our health. I mean, is there something that you've struggled with historically, or is there something that's a particular focus for you now? Do you see things in terms of struggles, or do you see them in different ways?
Personally, my food and diet has never been, it's not something I've ever been like great at, if you like, you know what I mean? It's not something, that's why I really liked it. I mean, I took a lot from the Josh Hillis podcast, and when we speak to Brad as well, you know, I take a lot from that.
Were you overweight once, or was it just that
I used to be a lot heavier, but that was kind of, again, when I went through a bit of a stage of wanting to lift heavy weights and get big, you know, and I kind of put on loads of weight, and I did get I was a lot stronger then than I am now, but I was also probably 3 stone heavier and 20% as fit, you know. So it's kind of stages you go through in life, isn't it? You know. But no, I have never had like a kind of an eating problem, if you like, where I kind of put on weight. But I just like to kind of probably be a bit more organized, be a bit more structured with that side of my life, or a bit more, I wouldn't say in control, because it sounds like I'm out of control, a bit more ordered. You know what I mean? Just a bit more, you know, that's something I love training. I love exercising. I love being active. I love doing, you know, training for certifications and things like that, and training for personal goals. But food is something that it's probably like an emotional kind of thing, you know what I mean? Or like we spoke, you know, bit of stress, bit of emotion, bit of this, bit of that, you know, every now and then. So yeah, possibly I'd like to focus on that more for myself, you know, probably.
Well, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh God, it's turning into a therapy session. This,
yeah. Tell me about your mother.
No, no, I think I'm leaning a lot more myself, and this is what I wrote a review for Josh's book Lean and Strong the other day, and I said that it's really changed the way that I'm coaching people and talking to people about, you know, food and habits and that sort of thing. And it has all, and I said in the review, it's also made me think differently about things as well. It's you know, it's a long conversation to get to in terms of the depth of you know, rules versus guidelines. And we want, you know, I think a lot of people want a rule to stick to, and it's kind of just being more fluid. And that's, so I'm just going through a bit of like lots of things, you know, like I said, going through that change of thinking about training muscle groups, and everything's got to be balanced to movements. I think I'm possibly just going through a little bit of a change myself with regards to the way I think about lots of things, which is healthy, you know. It's
good.
Yeah. So I think the first 10 years of my career was very much like my apprenticeship, and I was working for other people and other gyms and doing stuff like that. The next 10 years of the career was more the kind of, you know, getting more serious and knowledgeable about coaching and really looking at the way I was working. And I think probably the next 10 years, so these first 2 years and the next 8, I'm going to be looking a lot more at, you know, habits and the way, actually like lifestyle and more kind of coaching stuff over and above strength training, you know?
I love that, because it's one of those things, you know, I'm a newer trainer than you. I've been in this business for like 7 years or something. So in the beginning, you learn one thing and you go, that's the way you do everything, isn't it? And everyone does this, I think. And then you learn another thing and you go, actually, no, that other way I was doing was, this is the way to do things. And then you learn another thing and go, no, those other two, this is the way to do it. And then after a while, you're like, actually, it's a bit of that and a bit of that and a bit of that. And you become, like you say, you become a bit more fluid. What I love is you've been doing this for 22 years. So you know a hell of a lot, but you're always still learning, and you're always you've just said you've read Josh's book and it's made you change the way you think about food and about coaching people with food. So you've implemented it straight away. You're like, no, I've done it this way for ages and it's worked in the past, but this is a new way. And it might not work for everybody, but if it does, or it works for the majority of your guys, then great. You know, that's another thing. That's something that's come positive that's come out of this. But I'm realizing the time, right? And I know you've got an addiction as well, right? I think most people do, right? So we need to get onto this because we always end with something like
Not
this.
Haribo, is it?
No, it's worse than Haribo, man. He's got an unhealthy addiction with superheroes and all that, hasn't he?
Oh God, yeah, we've got to bring that up.
What's great is your customers, clients, your guys do artwork for you and stuff, don't they? And you've got it all over the gym and everything.
Yeah. So I've got there's one guy at the gym called Ian Bell who's an artist who does really lovely kind of film and comic book kind of stuff and culty things, and so yeah, he does great art, and I've got people bringing in artwork, and we're getting up at the gym, and so a couple of the members' children have even done a couple. We've got one picture of the Hulk, and what else have we got? A Thanos as well, I think, and they're up on the wall in the gym. So it's lovely that someone will bring in picture their kids done in a frame, and we'll pop it up. So it's just.
Is that from your design days? Is that you get an interest in that because when you were wanting to do, was it graphic design? You said.
Yeah, I did that a little bit.
Geek, that's why.
Yeah, and I'm a geek. Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, no, it's kind of, from that and also, I mean, this is we won't start talking about this now because this will go on forever. But when I was growing up, a lot of the kind of the old superhero stuff I really liked, like the old Adam West Batman series, the Incredible Hulk with Lou Ferrigno, Wonder Woman with Linda Carter, and all those sort of TV programs that were on when we were young. I used to love all of that. So, and again, that taps into the idea of change, and you can change yourself, and there's masses in there that I really like.
Whenever I see stuff like that, like become your superhero and all of that, right? And it's all a cliche, and I like things like that just make me want to throw up, right? But when you actually start to talk about them and you say, when I was a kid, I saw Superman and Batman and all of this, and I wanted to be, you're kind of like, I wish I could do that, especially like for me, especially with Batman, because he's a normal bloke who's just a bit odd. You know what I mean? If Superman's from another planet, that's totally different. But Batman's just like, he's built himself into this thing. He's like, right, I'm going to smash the boundaries and I'm going to become even better and even better, even better. And he does like
I know
stuff and stuff.
Dave Whitley has spoke about this before as well. We'd have to get Dave Whitley on, actually, Iron Tamer.
Yeah,
he spoke about when he was young. It was like the Incredible Hulk, and Bill Bixby turning into like Lou Ferrigno, and he became really around strength and that sort of thing. So it'd be good to speak to Dave because he's great as well. So that'd be good.
What would we? I mean, I was really into painting miniatures, so I don't know if there's.
Yeah, you said the White Dwarf, like the Warhammer stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, Warhammer 40,000. There was I was single for a long time. I've still got the White Dwarf magazines. I'm sure they're worth something. I like to think they are.
Here's a question. Here's a question for your superhero fans. The end of the Incredible Hulk, that piano.
Yeah.
Is it any good? Or does it just do your head in?
Well, it's just setting the scene, isn't it? It's poignant. It's usually him sort of walking off, isn't it? And leaving the town and going off.
Spoke from a proper true fan.
Yeah.
Is this in the original series?
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I don't know.
It's kind of like the Littlest Hobo. Really.
I was about to say.
I was just thinking that, but actually, I love the Littlest Hobo. The tune. Not so much the program because it was a bit like.
We can get a rendition at the end of the podcast.
Maybe you can find the music, Pete, and put it on at the end.
Well, I think maybe.
I'm not sure copyright would allow us. I don't know.
Okay.
I've got no idea. Who wrote it?
We demonetized our podcast that brings us in millions.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think maybe that's a good place to end. So, look, James, thank you very much. Have you got anything that you perhaps leave our listeners with, something that they could potentially take away?
No, I think just it's probably the one that the thing is just that we spoke about is because lots obviously of the listeners aren't going to be local to me or local to either of you, but just that kind of idea of if you are looking to make a change and you seriously want help doing it, try and seek out someone in your area who is, like is not kind of part of a big, multinational kind of chain, but maybe they are someone who will deeply care and will work very closely with you to help you get where you want to get, and there will be people in every single town and every single city and village, across the world doing it. So seek out one of those people locally to you and start your journey if that's what you want to do.
And how, if ever anyone's listening in Cheltenham and isn't training with you, how do they get hold of you?
In Chelmsford, Chelmsford.
Cheltenham.
I've been to Cheltenham before for the horse racing, I think.
I feel like an American coming in.
Yeah, from Cheltenham.
Yeah, Cheltenham, London.
Cheltenham, that's in London, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably just I'm on Instagram a lot. So Instagram as it's at unique_results. You'll find us on there as the gym. Myself is James St. Pierre. You'll find me on Facebook, Instagram, that sort of thing. That's probably the best place to. And then the website for the business is uniqueresults.co.uk if you want to find out more about what we specifically do.
Or if there's a Comic-Con in Chelmsford, he'll be there as well, dressed up.
You might bump into me at a Comic-Con at some stage. Yeah.
Anything to leave us with, Peter?
No.
Right.
No, it was all about James today, so it's really good. I love James's I love seeing his stuff. I like doing this. I like chatting to him, and I like seeing your stuff on social media as well, because it's just.
Yeah, I totally concur. I concur.
No, well, hopefully the sound is beautiful this week and going forwards on this new mic.
I mean, yes. I mean, I think it's, what do they call it? ASM? MS? Oh, that thing where people whisper and they like
strange.
that.
Yeah, someone said that ASMR or something.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if we get any listeners' letters. Maybe we should do that. Listeners' letters. Give us some topics to talk about in future.
Well, we have got something coming up very soon like that. We can't say anything at the minute, can we? But we've
Am I involved in this?
We're setting something up which will make it easier for you guys as the listeners to get in touch with us and ask questions and suggest who guests who you might want to come on, who you want to hear about, who you think might add to the conversation. So that's up and coming. So it's going to be more, hopefully. The goal is to get this more interactive and get a lot of questions, because
a new community.
Exactly. I mean, the guys and girls who we've had on over the past episodes, we've had a wealth of knowledge on, and if there are any gaps in that knowledge, any questions, then it's good, because we can seek people out who will be able to answer them. So yeah.
And we do have a really cracking lineup for April already, don't we? We won't talk about it.
There's some good people
in lineup already for April, so it's going to be great.
That reminds me, actually, for one of them, we're going to need to find an interpreter.
What, for Finn?
Lee suggested himself.
I'll just slow it down.
Okay.
Anyway, so thanks for everyone for listening. I was going to say something and then I've forgotten.
Subscribe, follow, leave a review.
Wait a second. Can I just come on camera? Because my little dog, there he is, little Siddy. Say hello. Hello.
Hello, Sid.
It's like the worst ventriloquist act ever.
Got the gear. Anyway.
Yeah, so please like and subscribe the podcast. Go to the Facebook page. Get updates of new episodes as they come. They're generally out every Friday. Please do write a review if you really enjoy listening to this. Write it in Spotify or iTunes or whatever you listen to the podcast on. And please do keep listening. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.